mankind, and specifically Yidden, but all of mankind. Good morning. We're on page 155. We're finishing today the Maamar. We've been on it for 2 weeks. So it's
no flights to Italy also, by the way. I forgot to tell you.
It's a conclusion. Hakol hoylech acher everything goes after a siyum, after the end. So we're finishing the Maamar, and this began with the idea of Btach b'Hashem v'asei toiv, and then at the end the words are re'ei emuna, that Bitochin and emuna, and we were talking about this throughout the Maamar. Now we're at a point where he taught us, the previous Rebbe, well, page 155. The previous Rebbe taught us that for there to be a result from your emunah, it shouldn't just be like, let's say now, with what we're discussing earlier, the situation, there's faith. The Yid believes wholeheartedly that the Eibishter is going to protect mankind because God wants mankind. That's why He created mankind. The question is how much of that belief infiltrates and permeates our psyche, our mind, and our heart. And this is what we're discussing. So let's go on top of page 155. And he mentioned that Moshe Rabbeinu, this is the important point, that Moshe is the Goyal Rishon, the Goyal Achrein. Reuven, someone asks you, who was the first Redeemer? Moses, Moshe. Who will be the last Redeemer that will take us out of Golus to Mashiach? It says it's Moshe Rabbeinu. And he explains that the idea of Goel means Geula, redemption. Redemption means when something is so clear that you're free. You can do what you want, how you want it, when you want it. That's the position of freedom. If in any way, shape, or form you're bound and limited, you're not a free person. You're conditioned, you're tied, you're dependent on something else or someone else. Geula means a sense of total freedom. So the Rebbe says that when does one have in their psyche Geula? When they have the clarity of Re'iyah, of Chochmah versus Bina. It's so clear to you. It's like you see it with your mind's eye. We're talking about understanding something. But it's crystal clear to the person that studies this issue and meditates on this issue, and in this case on Hashem and God's creation and the purpose of creation and what Hashem wants of me, that it's become so clear as though I see it. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu brought to us when he took us out of Egypt, Pesach time, right? He was the leader. He made it so clear to the Jewish people, now is the time to go, follow me. And there was no questions that they had. Right, I mean, we're not talking about the Erev Rav, the mixed multitude who had their opinions, because, you're never going to have all Jews agree on everything. I mean, until Mashiach comes, and it's always something I say, I wonder how that will be when Mashiach comes, that all of a sudden all Yidden will say, yeah, Mashiach, we're going to go with you, I'm going to listen to you. I think in the beginning, until Mashiach proves himself, there are going to be people who say, you're not a good Mashiach, you're not the right Mashiach, we want another candidate, But once Mashiach will be active and show that he made good on his money, he took us out of Golus, and he brought us to Yerushalayim, Ira Kodesh, into the Beis HaMikdash, and the Beis HaMikdash is rebuilt, and now there's no war, and no famine, and no fighting, and no jealousy. I mean, it's like we cannot believe that it's possible. Why? Because we are so conditioned, Hillel, to the experience of Bina. Today, the most we're at is Bina. We don't have the Chochmah. In other words, we're saying that one should work on gaining Chochmah in their personal life. But as a klal, as a generality, Shalom, we're not at Chochmah. The maximum we're at Bina, if we're at Bina, that we understand something, what's going on. Because the truth is we understand so little. We think we understand, and then we realize how little we understand. Nevertheless, Moshe Rabbeinu does understand. He is the appointee of God to lead the Jewish people. He proved himself once, and he will prove himself again. Now you might be wondering, how is Moshe going to do it if Moshe Rabbeinu already has passed on? He passed away on Zayin Adar. Today is Beis Adar. In 5 more days, it's his birthday, and it's the day that he passed away. Well, if he passed away, how will he be alive to redeem us when Mashiach comes? Did anyone ever think about that? No, Pinchas? Pinchas still in the room?
Yeah, he said he'll let you know.
Oh, he's going to let me know. He doesn't have an answer. He doesn't have an answer. So Chasidus gives us an answer. Chasidus says that it's going to be Moshe's soul reincarnated into Mashiach's soul at the time, and Mr. Mashiach will actually lead us out. Then there'll be later the resurrection of the dead, and Moshe will return. But the soul of Moshe, which is the Redeemer soul, he has the gift of redemption, ability, and power, will be impregnated kind of into Mr. Mashiach, who's going to be alive at the time of the Geula, of the redemption. And with that koach, Mr. Mashiach will be able to do redemption. I mean, this is a whole discussion. In other words, what we're saying is that Mr. Mashiach wouldn't be able to do redemption if he didn't have the koach of Moshe Rabbeinu. It doesn't say about Mashiach, Boaz, Yehuda, and everyone else, that Mashiach is the Goel. The Goel, it says, is Moshe. Goel Rishon, the Goel Achroim. And by the way, that's a Chazal. It's not Kabbalah, it's not Chasidus, it's not Musar, it's a Chazal. So Moshe is the Goel, the Redeemer. Mashiach is not the Goel. Mashiach is the one who carries it out. But with whose koyach? With Moshe Rabbeinu. That's the brief answer as given in Chasidus to the question that I asked. But going back to the text on 155, we're holding the third line at the end of the line. Avol sheyeh hadas, and we learned, Yoni, that you need das. You need brains. You need common sense. You could be a big Talmud Chochem, and you could be a big maven, and you can have lots of knowledge, but if you don't have any das, you're not worth much. Avol sheyeh das, but for there to be the das, gam b'bchinas seviv kol almim, not only in things that are revealed, which are called memale, the permeating energy, but also in the encompassing energy, in the faith, in faith. Knowledge in faith, das in faith, this will be when Mashiach will come, b'meheir very speedily. Amen, so be it true. Btach b'Hashem, and this is what we began in the beginning of the Maamar. Trust in God. The first thing is, my dear students, you have Bitochin. Bitochin, yeh bepoil dover. And Bitochin, in actuality, you have to trust in something real. That I trust that this is going to work out. V'hainu, shelei yirak b'dibur balad. It shouldn't only be lip service. Ela sheyeh bepoil. It should be in the bank. You should be able to count on it. Okay? We say Bitochin ahin, Bitochin aher. What do you got to show your Bitochin? You gotta put your money where your mouth is. You gotta show something for your Bitochin. Okay?
Money.
I don't mean only money. I mean, come on, bottom line, show something. You really believe? You really believe Mashiach is coming tomorrow? Where do you want to live? I want to live as close to the Kaisel as possible. Well, where is your bedroom? Oh, it's in Bet Shemesh. It's in Brooklyn. It's here, there. Really? But I thought you really believe he's coming tomorrow. And you decide you want to be next door? You better get yourself a bed. Or you're going to sleep on the floor? Show me which piece of floor you're going to sleep at. I'm saying it's easy to say words. It's so much harder to show something in reality. He says that Rebbe here, Bitochin requires, look what it says, Yehuda, bepoal dover. Actual something tangible. And he specifies, look at these words. It shouldn't only be in speech. It should be in actuality. And this is expressed in the Chazal saying, Vasei Tov. Remember, the Maamar began with the saying, Btach b'Hashem Vasei Tov, with the pasuk. Trust in God and do good. So the Rebbe says, the Vasei Tov, do good, is the way to prove that your Bitochin, your trust, is real. If you can't do something good in the actual physical world, then I have a question about your Bitochin. Then your Bitochin, Ari Pfeffer, your Bitochin is only, like we say in English, a figment of one's imagination. You're in a fantasy world, and you can fantasize from today to tomorrow. You know, in the fantasy world, it's free of charge. You can go with your fantasies all over. In the virtual world, it's all over. But when you have to put a pen to paper, and then dot it out, and then implement, it's a whole different ballgame. So this is what we say. Btach b'Hashem. Trust in Hashem. V'asei toiv. And do good. But the Rebbe is interpreting here, Boaz, v'asei toiv is the proof whether or not you really have Btach b'Hashem. You follow, Boaz? Boaz, I'm asking you.
Yeah, I'm following you.
No, well, stop. What do you understand the Rebbe is saying? Go ahead.
I think the Rebbe is saying that if you're Btach Hashem, it's all fine and dandy in your head, but to make it real, if you want it to be real and not just fantastical, you have to do something with it. You have to bring it to fruition with your hands. Do something.
So in other words, without the doing something with your hands, without being able to do with it in asay, then it's lacking in the Btach. If you don't have the asay, Hillel, then it's lacking in the Btach. That's what he just said. And by the way, is that the literal meaning of the verse? The answer is no. That's not the literal meaning of the verse. The literal meaning, Yoni, is 4 different clauses. Number 1, Bitochin. Number 2, do. Number 3 and 4, whatever, right? That the Rebbe is now interpreting that the second clause is really part of the first. It's the proof of the pudding for the first one. Let's go further. Then the Rebbe says, the third thing it says, right? What's the third thing? It says, Shchoin Eretz, which means rest on earth. Chill. You want to chill? You want to be chilled? You want to be relaxed? You want to be serene? Calm? Have Bitochin. In other words, again, he's saying that the third clause, which is Shchoin Eretz, which means Chayim Shel Menucha. Again, the words in the pasuk is Shchon, rest, Shechina, for the word Shechina, Eretz on earth. The Rebbe is interpreting that to mean to have a peaceful life on earth. Chayim Shel Menucha. You want Chayim Shel Menucha? Have Bitochin through doing something. If you could show that your Bitochin is actual and physical, then you'll be a very calm person, because nothing will fathom you. And you'll know that it's all good, and it's all the way the Eibishter wants. And it's not just, Ari, an idea in my head, a philosophy that I can pontificate on and explain and give a great cheer. But look, I have in my own life this and this issue, and look that I have trust, and I don't give up, and I'm chazak. Oh, if you have that, you're going to have a life of menucha. That you're going to have a life of peace. Yes, Boaz.
I was just going to say, this is probably the epitome of the Rebbe Reb Zusha, right? That he had struggled so much, but he didn't even see a problem. That's right.
That he didn't even see that there was a problem. And the food of faith. Who gives us this faith It is das. Shemekasher umekarev es hadover. Das makes the emunah be close to us. All Jews love Torah mitzvahs. And we're very rejoiceful and happy. Learn Torah to do mitzvahs. And all Jews, Yoni, look what he says, deep down, hate to do sin and are God-fearing. Even Bernie Sanders and even all those people you mentioned the other day. If you get deep down to the neshama is pure, and the neshama hates doing a sin, and by nature the soul is a God-fearing. Avo. Al kol zeh hu al yidei piseicha v'avon Torah. All this is if you approach it's when you approach it through the intellectual part. V'inyan hadas, but das is not like it's the intellectual. So what I told you earlier in the shir a few weeks ago or whatever, it's the kishkes, right? The das is the kishkes experience. Ari, you know what the kishkes are? Sometimes you eat kishke Shabbos. Yes, you know what kishke is or not?
Sure. I didn't know until like 10 years ago.
Okay. Well, kishke, everyone likes this chont, this kugel, but kishke that's at the top. I mean, some say it's the picha. Over here in the Hungarians in Borough Park, they love the picha. But us Russians, those that are from Russia, yeah. But we the Russians and the Polacks, for us, a good piece of kishke is enough. What's the kishke? The kishke is the gut. It's the gut. It's and the gut is not communicated through here. The gut is here. You either got the gut or you don't have the gut. Either you relate to it in your kishkes, it's in your bones. It's by osmosis. It's coming out of your body like smoking herrings coming out of your body. Why? Because this is who you are. Because your Bitochin has become part of you that it's in the kishkes. Another more sensitive word for kishkes in the Maamar is das. Look what he says. V'inyan das hu lahargish es kedushas haTorah. Das means to feel that the Torah is holy. In Yiddish, the heiligkeit was in Torah. It's not just a good book. It's not just a good Maamar. It's not just a good Rambam. It's not just a good Chumash that you read Shabbos and the rabbi gives a sermon on the Torah portion. But this Torah, this Sefer, is Kedusha, holiness. And you want to rub yourself and be near Kedusha, because Kedusha is holy. And I mean holy. I don't mean secular, and I don't mean frivolous, and I don't mean, all kinds of inappropriate feelings. I mean holiness. That when you gravitate to Torah, all of a sudden you feel Kedusha. And he says, U'kamoshonal now, shadas b'karev v'sadover toiv, shu somech v'sos v'sameach, das brings a person close to something that's good, that makes the person feel happy, or metel, right? Or metel charod or pachad godel, or the opposite. Das leads a person to distance themselves from something because it's frightening. Min hadover ra, something that's bad. Being, walking in the hood isn't just about walking in the hood and you might be knifed. It's just not who I am. It just feels weird, right? It's not just because I might get beat up in the hood. That's also true. You better watch yourself. But you don't belong there. It's not you. The aura of the hood is not the aura of a Jew. That's what we mean by das. So both in the Kedusha element and in the bad element, there is the das experience where you just don't want to be there because it's not you. And I'm telling you, if people were to think about this and live it and try to share it with their children and their families and friends, we will have a lot less issues. I go back to what Avram Tversky always says, Dr. Tversky, as pasnit. Why shouldn't your daughter, your son, your grandchildren say, why shouldn't I do this? Hey, Dad, You smoked joints when you were in college. You messed around. You heard rock and roll. You had the life. You had the parties. Why can't I? Because I'm living in Eretz Yisrael? It's not fair. What's the answer? What's the answer? What are you going to tell your kids and grandkids if they ask you that question? And believe me, they're going to ask you that question. And if they haven't yet, they're thinking about the question at some point. The answer is, I didn't know any better. I did not know any better. And you have to come to a point where you could say that and feel good about saying that. I did not know any better. I was messed up because of my education, because of my community, maybe because of my parents, which you don't need to necessarily tell your children, of course. But anyway, well, it's true. You don't have to share your dirty laundry in public. And in public means with your kids. Not everything they have to know. Believe me, they'll find out. They will find out as they grow up. You don't have to hang it all over what your father or mother or grandmother or grandfather did to you and the craziness and chaos that existed in your house. It's an uncomfortable place, and that's why the Rabbanim stopped the call of the shofar 10 years ago or so when people were parading around bad-mouthing their own parents. Sitting Shabbos morning, instead of learning Chasidus and learning Chumash and Rashi, they davened quick. They didn't violate Shabbos. They didn't turn on lights. They're sitting around in a circle with their feet in sweatpants, Shabbos morning, and what are they doing? Cursing out their parents and their father in particular, because their relationship, their father was terrible. Now maybe it's true, but it's not a Jewish thing to sit around and have group therapy and everyone should knock out and speak ill of their father. That you do in private with a therapist if you need to, or a good friend, or a rabbi, or your wife. But there's a way of being a Jew. This is what I'm telling you. This is what we mean by Kedusha. Kedusha has a certain flavor. This is my point. And we who are trained in the Western way of thinking have to shift. And this is the hardest thing. I've been teaching 35, 40 years of my life. And I although I'm an American, but I grew up in a European culture. My home was a Holocaust home, a European home, and the yeshiva and the world I lived in. So it's a different way of thinking. And for Western thinkers who didn't grow up this way, it's a very difficult thing to make the shift from the Western way of thinking to the Torah way of thinking. If you want to really read an excellent chapter about this, you must read Rabbi Zalman Posner's book called Think Jewish. He addresses this in very, very good words in English. I read it when I was a teenager, and I read it several times, and it really put things into perspective. There is a Yiddish way of thinking. There is a Jewish way of thinking. That's what the Rebbe is really saying over here, Boaz. The Kedusha, Yehuda, the Kedusha is not the Western way of thinking. It's not the Goyish way of thinking. It's a whole different way. The Western way of thinking is tit for tat, yes and no, up and down, plus and minus, black and white, yin and yang. That's all a treif way of thinking. It's not a Yiddish way of thinking. And even though there is reward and punishment, of course there's reward and punishment. Of course. But it's reward and punishment of Torah. And the Torah way of thinking that's the first thing you have to ask yourself. You have to ask yourself, Moshe, what would the Torah say? I think I told you, I have a friend who I would learn with him once a week. We would learn together. And in Midtown Manhattan, I traveled from Borough Park to Midtown and back. It was a 3-hour excursion. We learned for an hour there, an hour learning, an hour back. And one day he calls me, he says, I want to thank you for learning with me. We learned for 10 years consecutively, each week while I was in town, when I was in town most of the time that time. Anyway, so I say, why are you calling me? We were scheduled to learn in a day or two. You'll tell me thank you. Then, he says, I'll tell you why. I just came out of a meeting. And he's in life insurance, in a very high level of life insurance business. And there was an ethical question, how we should deal with it. And before I gave my answer, I stopped and I said to myself, what would the Beinani answer? Now the Beinoni is the prototype of the Tanya. And we were learning Tanya together for many years. So he became sensitized to answer the ethical question, not with the life insurance approach, but with the Tanya Torah's answer. Oh, and he said, so I just came out of meeting, so I'm calling to thank you for studying with me and bringing this awareness and consciousness and sensitivity to me that now it's bottom line. Here it is. Do I make the deal? Do I not make the deal? Do I give the life insurance policy? Do I not give it? This isn't, in a kollel, in a yeshiva in Bnei Brak or Yerushalayim. This is in Midtown Manhattan on the 42nd floor on 5th Avenue. Okay? Where, everything's about money. Right? So here it's real. And he says, I gave my answer based on what I thought the Beinoni would react and how a Jew should answer that question. That's what we're talking about. That's Kedusha. That's Kedusha. Your barometer, your way of thinking is no longer, secular. The court says this, the paper says this, the books. No, what does the Torah say? What does Chasidus say? What does my Rav say? It's that attitude. So this is what we're learning over here. I want to conclude. He says, this is true both in issues that bring a person happiness and issues that bring a person or issues to stay away from. How do you know, Reuven, what to stay away from? You have to turn to the Torah. And the Torah says that this is unhealthy for a Jew, I stay away from it. If the Torah says this is very healthy, I run towards it whenever I have a chance. Like a shul. You know what a shul used to be in the shtetl? The shul was the place where you came to kibbutz, you came to learn, you came to daven, you came to cry, you came to make deals. I feel some of that when I go into Yerushalayim in Zichrei Moshe over there, and there's a guy who changes the money from dollars to shekels, and there's another guy on the other side giving out hamatashim, and there's people davening, and some daven longer. It's like a hangout. It's a Jewish hangout, Jewish experience. Now, on one hand, people say, well, there's no decorum, and the towels are dirty. Yeah, but you're getting the kishkis over there. You want the kishkis? You go in over there, you got the kishkis. You see, real Yiddishkeit being played out. I'm not saying it's all kosher and holy. I'm not going that direction. But I'm saying a base medrash it wasn't a place that you had to have a key to open up. The door was open the whole time. And naturally at night they closed the door if they needed to, if it was dangerous. But there were places. There was a rabbi in Baltimore, Rabbi Axelrad. He passed away in 1952. His yahrzeit is in 2 days. Shabbos, a very special Jew. His house, the door, he never locked the door of his house. Night, day, maybe a Yid or a Yidden, a Jew, a woman or a man need to come and ask a shayla, want to discuss something. You can always walk in. Okay, things have changed, I understand. But the attitude that we need to think about is that attitude. Oh, you need an appointment to see me. Why? Why do you need an appointment? My heart's bleeding. I want to talk to you. No. Now I can see you, now I can't see you. That whole attitude is not a Jewish attitude. It's a very secular attitude, What do you mean an appointment? If you're not available, tell me you're not available, come back. But no, you need an appointment and call me and text me and WhatsApp me and back. It's a whole, like my father says, it becomes disgusting by the time you want to actually speak to the person. You no longer want to speak to them anymore. He gives you such a hard time to get 2 minutes. Forget it. Who wants to speak to such a person? That's the Kedusha. That's the Kedusha that the Maamar is talking about. And that's why when we learn these Maamarim, it's not just an intellectual exercise of understanding this level and that level. It's really getting to us to focus on what is holiness. And I'm telling you, it's good for yourself, your kids, your grandkids, and your friends and community, because this is what keeps Yiddishkeit alive. And if more people would have seen this and see this, they will want to be part of the Jewish experience, the Frum experience, the Torah experience, because the secular world is broken. It is so broken. It is so shallow. It is so corrupt. It is wrong. It's not good. We need to take the sparks there that are good and elevate them. So not to lock ourselves and forget about working. No, of course we have to work. But we have to bring Kedusha into it. Let me just continue. Through das, there becomes a great simcha when we do the mitzvah. It causes one, das causes one to have a tremendous amount of fear of sin. This is the meaning that das is food of faith. And who sustains the emunah. And who is the one that does this? The Moshe Rabbeinu. And this touches upon the other idea, why it's necessary to have a Moshe Rabbeinu in our life. Who the Moshe Rabbeinu is, that's up to you to come to a conclusion, who my Moshe Rabbeinu is. But to have a Moshe Rabbeinu is so important, again, to give us this last idea. So, if you just want rabbinic guidance, you go to a rabbi. If you want psychological guidance, you go to a Torah-oriented psychologist. If you want a good investment idea, go to a frum businessman, right? But if you want to know, like Rabbi Yehuda Anasi says in Avos, chapter 2, Rabbi Omer, the beginning of chapter 2, Pirkei Avos, Rabbi Omer, Rebbe says, what path should man choose? What path should I choose? Should I be living in Beitar, Ramat Bet Shemesh, Yerushalayim, Brooklyn, Hong Kong, or Singapore? Where should I live? You got to go to a rabbi. A rabbi sees your soul, and he sees that your soul belongs here. Your soul should do this. Rabbi Omer. Only a rabbi, and someone who you consider a rabbi, who you consider a soul, not just a knowledgeable person. And there is, Torah advice is Torah advice. But when you talk about a mission in life and a purpose, it's the Moshe Rabbeinu. You have to find a Moshe Rabbeinu. You have to find someone who gives that to the Jewish people. And this is why Moshe Rabbeinu was called the first Redeemer and the last Redeemer. Why Yehuda is Moshe Rabbeinu credited to be the Redeemer? Because of what he gives every Jew. And the next Maamar that was starting Sunday, Mitzvah, which is associated with Purim, we're going to learn more details about what the Moshe Rabbeinu is. And every generation. And this is something that is helpful, because we have who to turn to. God, Hashem, through his tzaddikim in every generation. Have a great day and have a great Shabbos.
Rabbi, question.
Yes.
Question. So you're saying about, always having, that this tzaddik in Baltimore used to have his door open. So my wife's grandfather also, he always had his door open. He never locked the door, and he'd have all these Michiganese guys that come, all the time. My question is that I have this kid that he comes over every Shabbos, 11-year-old boy, and he has nowhere to go. I don't know. He doesn't want to be home, so he comes to us. He hangs out all day. My kids, they don't like him because my kids are girls. He's an 11-year-old boy. There's nothing for them to do, and I don't know what to do because he just shows up, and you can't throw out someone. You're not allowed to throw someone. I just don't know how to deal with that.
What are you concerned about? That it's boys and girls? I mean, what are you concerned about?
No, because he's only 11 years old, but he just comes and he loiters. And my kids don't like when he comes over because there's nothing for them. He gets into their stuff, and like they want their own lives. Their own friends come over, and it makes it comfortable.
Right. Let me ask you: does he has parents? You know his parents?
He has parents. He has 3 siblings. Yeah, I know his parents. His parents are very nice people.
Have you discussed it with his parents?